Hello and welcome to the Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Rosemary Brown, and we're at Smithfield Township Beach, where we are joined with Rich Schlameuss, who is the Assistant Executive Director for Monroe County Transit Authority, otherwise known as MCTA. Rich, you have been with MCTA
10 years.
10 years. So we know you're an expert up there. You've done some great things and modernizing the transportation in Monroe County. And we're going to give you a chance today to really talk about MCTA a little bit, maybe some of the enhancements even that you've done with the transportation, and also about some of the new programs that you're offering. That why I thought it was so important to do the show today was really to show our local viewers and our local constituents what's out there and how they can utilize it over the summer period.
Well, thank you very much for having us here to explain all the great things that we do in our community. The Monroe County Transit Authority, also known as the Pocono Pony, is the transit system for our area. And we provide two basic systems. We have the paratransit service, the smaller buses that look like the one behind us that go from a curb-to-curb service that we go to the person's home, pick them up, bring them to their doctor's appointment, or go grocery shopping, or just go meet their friends someplace during the day. It's a weekday service, Monday through Friday, generally from about 9 o'clock in the morning to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when we get people to arrive or depart from a location. It's a day advance reservation. So you call us on a Friday for a Monday, or you call us on a Thursday for a Friday, so we can have time to schedule the trips and make everything work the right way. The services are available for folks who are seniors over 65. They pay a copay for the service, and then folks who are disabled also pay a copay. If they live anywhere in the county, we can transport them as long as they meet those guidelines with a subsidy. People can pay a full fare at our published rate to do the same service, but that gets to be a little expensive. We also offer services for folks who are on medical assistance to get them to their doctor's appointments or to the pharmacy and then back home again. So those are the basic services that we provide for the shared ride service. Again, it's Monday through Friday. There's a copay involved with that. Our other service is the fixed route service, the big buses that follow a fixed route and have a published schedule on a certain time. And those buses go along the main corridors in Monroe County, 611, 209, and from Marshall's Creek all the way out to Broadheadsville up to Coolbaugh Township.
Which has been extended over the years.
Which has been extended, yes.
I've watched that grow over the last couple of years.
In fact, there's been so much demand to go to different places in our area, and that's what makes it hard for us to provide a service that's very frequent. So our service it's considered a coverage service. So we cover large areas of the county, but the buses will be seen every hour and 15 minutes. And there's trade-offs for that. We get more of the county to provide service to. It's just that the bus won't be as often as one in New York City where you're seeing it every 5 minutes going by. So we take that challenge and we just try to find the right way to provide the best service to our community. To do that, we have to add service and add time into there. So it takes a while to get from one end of the county to the other. But the benefit of it is that for $1.50, you can go from one end of the county to the other end of the county.
Which is amazing.
Which is great, yes. So that's a very good thing. Some of the great things that we've done since I've started is added technology on the bus that allows us to know exactly where the bus is. And there are certain apps now that we have partnered with that provide the information for free. So you can just look on your app, and one is called Transit. And it's great. You just download the app, you type in where you are and where you want to go. It gives you the directions, but also tells you the amount of time that's needed to walk to the bus stop, or when the bus will arrive. And once you get on the bus, it'll tell you when you should get ready to get off the bus because their stop is approaching. And it shows you the bus marching down the street. So these little enhancements allow our passengers to get better access to time and technology. And because our frequency is every hour and 15 minutes, it makes it a little more accessible as well. Speaking of accessibility, we also have the ramps for handicapped passengers, so we can accommodate wheelchairs, walkers, any kind of mobility aid that people require to use public transportation or to get to their bus stop.
That's great. Now, so the app, now not everybody at a certain age probably might not love to use the app. Right? But you are finding, I think, that people are getting more comfortable with their smartphones.
Yes.
When maybe they weren't before, or they're getting educations on them, and so the app that they would download for that transportation enhancement, maybe to give them a better time gauge of everything, or where the bus is and how long it takes them to get to the bus stop. What is that name of that app? Is it under MCTA?
It's just called Transit.
Transit,
So
okay.
on your Android or iOS device, that's just a name. Just type in Transit and off you go. It'll be the one that comes up the most. You can use that app in New York City, Philadelphia,
so
anyway. It's global. It's
very
global.
nice.
And just to be partners with them is pretty exciting. We were one of the first in Pennsylvania to do that.
Very
we were also one of the first in Pennsylvania to have our data on Google real-time data. And so we're one of the 3 or 4, Philly, Pittsburgh, Monroe County. It's pretty impressive.
Very nice.
So pretty exciting. So with those apps, people are able to get the data. What we've been noticing is that even our seniors are getting more and more wired and are able to use the technology and even book their reservations through for shared ride through the app or through using email. So a lot of that, what used to be time consuming to speak to somebody on the phone, is now happening either through email or other ways.
I'm always amazed with the logistics.
Yes.
Of just how everything, with the scheduling and even with the day in advance and how it all works and how it all comes together.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge and a
challenge.
process.
And we have such a huge county, and we also try to make sure that we're doing it within we have financial constraints to be aware of. And so that makes it difficult to, have buses everywhere in the county at all the times that people want them. So there has to be some give and take in some cases to do it right.
Well, I think you're doing a great job, and it definitely, you can see the advancements, and we're watching it happen with all these great new technologies that you're using. So on top of that, there is some great partnerships that you are establishing, and one of them has been with the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area, and a program that I think that for the viewers watching is very exciting, and it's very interesting, and something that I think really should be utilized, and maybe many people aren't aware of it, even though part of the program has been in place for a couple years, and then there's a new addition this year as well. So tell us a little bit about some of the interesting partnership you created.
Sure. So with the national park, having them as a partner was phenomenal. They came to us and said, well, they did a survey, they did an analysis and a needs assessment, said what are some of the things that we need here, and part of that was transit, public transportation in the park. And so we worked with them initially to get some kind of system put in place. And initially it was just one bus that would go from one end of the park to the other end of the park. It was limited. It was just around October, September, so leaf peeping time, but didn't gain a whole lot of traction. What we chose to do was say we have this resource of the river. So the next year we added a trailer onto one of our shared ride vans, and the trailer has capacity for kayaks and canoes and bikes. And the idea was that people would go upriver and then float back downriver. This does a lot of things for the park because it relieves congestion. It does a lot of things for the visitor because they're able to just do the trip with one vehicle. And so even if they have a bike or a canoe, they can just ride as far as they want to or float as far as they want to, but be back at their car again and then return
Makes
home.
It so easy.
So easy.
So easy to go out and enjoy as a family and takes the stress out of everything.
Right. And doing it as a family, there's plenty of capacity on our buses to transport people. And so we've added that ability to then add the kayak in there and the canoe and the bike, and makes it much easier for folks.
Right.
Yes.
Now, is that something that you would have to schedule in advance? That you would have to go on and say, okay, I'm going to have a family of 5 that is going to be transporting, and we're going to go from this location to this beach, or how does that work?
So it is a fixed service. It's like our big buses, same principle. There's a published schedule and times that we're going to be at that location. The unique thing about this is that the location requires us to be staying a little bit longer at that stop. Like if the bus is coming along downtown in Stroudsburg, it's 20 seconds, you're on the bus and the bus is moving again. This takes a little bit longer.
Loading up.
Because you have to load and unload. There's people coming from all kinds of different places. So so their first thing is that you need to plan for being at the stop a little bit earlier, having your stuff staged, and there's sometimes a queue, a line of people ready to get on the bus. So that's one thing. This year we've made a couple of important adjustments. We weren't getting as many bikers as we thought we would get. And so we've modified the trailer to accept more kayaks and canoes because that really was where the demand was. So now we have more capacity to add maybe 10 or 12 kayaks on the vehicle, whereas before we were doing maybe 8, if we were lucky, 10 if we can squeeze them on really tight. So we've modified, we flipped it around and made it more accommodating to canoers and kayakers. The other thing is we did is we added a few more times between Smithfield Beach and Dingman. So there's a lot of movement that goes on between those 3 places. Being able to park at one, move your gear up, and then come back to your spot is helpful. So at a place like here at Smithfield or Bushkill or Dingman's, you're going to see the bus a little more frequently, and we've pushed a lot of that time between 8 and 12 o'clock in the morning, where people really want to just get on the river. We have trips that go a little later in the afternoon, but we have like 8 of those trips happening right around the busiest time. So we've kind of focused our energy on making sure that those trips and those folks are accommodated to get up the river.
I guess that's what happens when you learn, from a couple years of what really works and what doesn't. So you've kind of finessed it a little bit to hone in on what most people want.
And we've tracked the data very closely. So when we have people get on the bus and when they get off the bus, we're tracking that information and following it, and also speaking to the drivers and the public and making sure that we're trying to hit their needs better,
Yeah.
So that's...
Well, and I think, when I often talk to constituents or residents of the area, not always are they aware that this program is going and this is what's available. And it's free. I know.
Right.
And that's where you say, that's one reason we really wanted to make sure that everybody knew about it, was to be able to utilize the park, work with our transportation authority, and really utilize the park as best you can.
Right.
And I think, it's the different time frames that you're doing it. Now you're starting it May 28th? Is that the
26th is Saturday.
Okay.
May 26th is Saturday. So Saturday, the Memorial Day weekend, so the Saturday, Sunday, and the holiday Monday.
Okay.
And then every weekend until Labor Day, so the Monday of Labor Day and the 4th of July. So every Saturday, Sunday, and then those holidays, federal holidays, are the days that we're providing the service.
Right, so Monday through Friday, you're on your own.
Right.
Obviously still able to come into the park, utilize everything that you want to, but the Saturday and Sundays where really this service is geared to get to the most people.
Right.
And tourists as well.
Right.
Are able to use this
Yes.
if they're within the vicinity.
Absolutely.
So they're fine as
and
well.
And we find that a lot of folks from New Jersey are really keen on this. We've had a lot of, when we did a survey, last rider survey, we found that a lot of our passengers were coming from New Jersey, which is interesting.
Right.
But we'd love to see the folks who live here use it.
Absolutely.
As a real
absolutely. I think so too. And it's just something that you have to make time for and know that it's there, and get out and do it and get some exercise. So, Rich, we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to meet with some of the families that have utilized it over the last couple of years.
Sure.
And we'll be back with some more information on the legislative report.
Did you know that there are 6 ornate bronze chandeliers hanging in the House chamber? The 4 large chandeliers are estimated to weigh 3 tons each, yet these iron and brass fixtures painted in 18-karat gold manage to dangle effortlessly. It takes 168 light bulbs to light the large chandeliers and 84 light bulbs on each of the smaller chandeliers. As you can imagine, changing the light bulbs when they burn out is far from easy. Workers must build scaffolding in order to reach their 1,450 light bulbs. Today, special, long-life, low-wattage energy-saving bulbs are used to lessen the amount of times that the light bulbs will need to be replaced. Now you know. Did you know that the state capitol is not only the epicenter of the Commonwealth's governing bodies, but was once home to 390 preserved Civil War flags? During the war, it was customary for each state to furnish their regiments in battle with flags representing their contribution to the Union Army. After the war, Pennsylvania's military department was responsible for collecting the flags, and in 1872, they were reverently housed in the Capitol. Following the completion of construction on the new Capitol building in 1914, the Civil War flags were moved to the Capitol Rotunda. They were kept untouched in custom-made flag cases until 1982, when the Capitol Preservation Committee initiated its Save the Flags project. Throughout the years, dust and long-term vertical display of the flags had begun to devastate the brittle silk fabric and painted designs. The flags were removed by local textile conservators and were repaired and preserved in storage units that protect the relics from light, dust, and excessive handling. Now you know.
lived here for about 5 years in the Stroudsburg area. I actually moved here partly because of the river and the amenities that we have here. I've used the service a lot over the summer. I'm an avid kayaker, so is my husband, and it really saves us a lot of time and effort to, if we don't use the shuttle, we have to take 2 cars, and then you have to park one, take your boats up, float down, you're tired, go and get the other car, bring it back, and then load the boats. And the shuttle it's one and done. And it's a huge time saver. It's also really energy efficient to do it that way too. The other nice thing about the shuttle is that it enables us to, it frees up the parking. So a lot of times we're here at Smithfield Beach today. Oftentimes in the summer on Saturdays and Sundays, the parking lot fills by 10. So this really saves a lot of parking spaces. It's really easy to use. It's easy kayaks are pretty heavy, but it's easy to reach up and actually get them on the rack. The straps are really easy to use. The bus driver always checks to make sure that they're tied down properly. They have a space for the paddles. The bus is very nice inside, so it's really convenient for families.
We're a family from Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and we love to do the McDade Trail. The shuttle, the Pocono Pony, has made it really easy to not have to do loops back, so we can go one way. When you go with the kids, you can pick a really short length, do 2 miles if you want. If you have friends coming in from out of town, it's really great because you can do the whole 32 miles if you want. Go all the way up to Milford, come all the way down. There are a few sections where you need to walk the bike, but certainly if you make a day of it, it's a great way to spend the day, and the River Runner has just made it so easy for us to do that, so we can all stay together as a family. You don't need to deal with 2 vehicles. Just hop on, ride back to your car. It's a fantastic service for us.
Welcome back to the Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Rosemary Brown. We're at Smithfield Beach, and I'm joined by Kathleen Sant, who's the Public Affairs Specialist for the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area. Kathleen is no stranger to our show, the Legislative Report. You've been on several times telling us all the wonderful things about the park and how our local people can really utilize the park the best way possible. And that's what we're continuing to do on today's show. And we were just talking to Rich Schlameuss, who is the Assistant Executive Director at Monroe County Transit Authority, trying to really fill everyone in about the great partnership that you have done with MCTA and the National Recreation Area to really promote being outdoors this summer, canoeing, kayaking, using your bikes, getting on the trails with your family. So we're going to continue a little bit from your perspective in your position with the park, and just try to clarify a little bit more for people how to utilize the services, what they are, and how to have fun doing it, taking the stress out of getting your whole family together and getting out to enjoy things,
river.
Which we know is always tough, but you want to do it. Everyone says they're going to do it.
Right.
And then they go, oh, we'll do that. We'll do that next weekend. We'll figure this out. And
then finally you get a plan in place, and it's the day, and you need to figure out how you're going to get you and your kids or your family or your friends out to the river, or even out for a bike ride on the McDade Trail. One of the big things that's really difficult to do is that if you want to do a river trip, you need to have 2 cars. You need to have one at the south end and one at the north end, and then you've got to do that driving in between to get everybody and everything in the right place. And then at the end of your trip, when you take out, you don't just get to go home. You've got to go back upstream and pick up your vehicle. And so that adds a lot of time. It adds gas money.
It kind of ruins the relaxation and the enjoyment too from the experience.
You really just want to get to the river, right? So the Pocono Pony shuttle, the River Runner shuttle, has been fantastic because it's really opened up opportunities for a lot of our visitors to be able to get out on the river and do that river trip and only need 1 car, which is a huge thing. It also just makes it a little bit easier. You get to spend a lot less time in your car and a lot less money on gas, and you actually get to spend more time on the river or on the trail. It is a free shuttle. It operates on summer weekends, and it's a great way to just get up and down and move around the park. As you heard from Rich earlier, you can take your kayaks, your canoes, you can even take your bicycles and your gear on the shuttle. So it's a great way to kind of take some of the headache out of things and make your trip a little bit easier.
Yeah, and you would think with the larger equipment like behind us, the kayak, and that's tough. And so you need a certain vehicle. I mean, even though you're going to need a certain vehicle to get to where to meet the
Right.
the MCTA vehicle, but you know, it's still, you'd have to have 2 vehicles that are like
Right,
that. One
exactly.
up at the pickup and one at, you know. So
Yeah.
it's really
In my family, we have 2 vehicles, but one is an SUV and one is a regular
Right.
car, and so one of them can't carry the kayaks for us. So a service like this allows us to be able to do that trip and not have to worry about how we're gonna pick up.
Now, I know we spoke about it last year, so that program, this program that we're talking about, has been a couple of years now.
Yes,
right?
since 2011. Yep, and it's grown in users throughout those years as it's added more and more amenities. So originally it didn't have the bike rack and the canoe rack. That was added, and that really opened up a lot of doors for people. This year we've also added a hiker shuttle, which is a brand new feature, and that shuttle is going to run from the park and ride in the town of Delaware Water Gap, where there are about 400 parking spaces. And you can hop on that bus. It's $1 fare for a round trip, and that will take you across the river into New Jersey, so you can get access to the Dunfield Creek trails, Kittatinny Point Visitor Center, the Appalachian Trail, and some of those great areas where there's very limited parking. It often gets crowded. People get stuck in traffic in that area. So
You may not ever be able to experience those trails.
Exactly. You might not. On a busy summer afternoon, the whole entire parking area might be full, and you'd have to find somewhere else to go. So this new hiker shuttle service that we're trying out this year is going to go just back and forth across the bridge between those 2 locations. It's going to run every 30 minutes. So for just $1, you can ride the hiker shuttle from the Park and Ride in Delaware Water Gap over to the Kittatinny Point Visitor Center and the Dunfield area trails. And for that $1, you can avoid parking headaches. You can avoid driving around in circles looking for a parking space or sitting in traffic. So it's a great way to be able to get hikers back and forth and alleviate some of that congestion. That Kittatinny Point area is also a very popular spot for boaters, and so that enables the boaters to really be able to get in and out of that area and not have the hikers and the boaters
In the
kind of
way.
competing for the same places.
Yeah, because if you experience that one time and it's not a positive experience,
Right.
you're going to say, oh, that's it, I'm not going back, I'm not going
Right.
to do that again, and it was just, you know, or
Yeah.
even to figure out how to get there. Now you can also take the hiking bus up the transit one way,
You can.
right?
Yep.
So how would that work?
Well, if you wanted to take the hiker shuttle, you can pick it up in the town of Delaware Water Gap at the Park and Ride, and you can take it over to the trails, and from there you can hike all you want. You can hike all day long, but if you come back later on, you can actually just hike back across the bridge, and it's about a mile to get back to the parking area. So if you were to miss the bus, it would only be about a mile to hike back.
Right, so it's nothing crazy.
And then on this side with the River Runner shuttle, it runs up and down the entire length of the park on the Pennsylvania side. So you can get on in Delaware Water Gap and ride all the way up to Milford and stop at a number of areas along the way. So you can get to a number of our different beach and boat launch areas. You can take it from the south end of the park all the way up to Milford Beach if you wanted to change the scenery a little bit. So it provides a great way to be able to get around in the park. And remember, this one on the River Runner shuttle is absolutely free. You can take your gear, you can take your kayak, your boats,
That's
your
amazing that
bikes.
you know, and how is that funded? So that's kind of a joint effort on from the park and from MCTA
Yep.
on that funding mechanism to allow it to be free for the residents and tourists that want to use it, right?
Correct, yeah. This is really designed to be able to improve the experience for our visitors who are coming here. We have about 3.5 million visitors a year that come to the park. So as you can imagine, it can get crowded every now and then. And so we thought that this would be a great way to be able to help people get around, help people have a better experience here in the park, cut down on traffic congestion, have fewer cars and fewer parking issues in our sites and on our roads, and still be able to provide a way for visitors to get out there and get to explore and enjoy everything that the park has to offer.
Yeah, it's really a win-win for everybody.
It is,
really
yeah.
just, and the ease of it is so nice.
Yep.
So now we've done this before, but since you're such the expert here in the park, we only have a couple minutes left, but the choice of trails, if you were to hike, and being able to navigate the park and saying, okay, I'm going to take advantage. Somebody's watching this show. I'm going to take advantage of that. That's a great thing. I mean, how can you go any place? It's not going to cost you anything
Right.
if you use, you know, the one transit, not the hiking trail. But
Right.
even the hiking trail is
It's only $1.
if you go
Yep.
both ways.
Yep.
So
I think the toll is $1.
So
at
that's
this
pretty
point.
much
so,
right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
So
you're covering the toll.
Right.
Yeah.
So really, to go out for the day and really enjoy with the family, it's a tremendous benefit.
And to just be able to leave your car in one place.
Right.
And do whatever you need to do in the park,
Right.
get you and yourself and your gear and your friends and family around from place to place, and then come back at the end and be ready to go.
So I think the only thing that people might be asking, that's great, I'm going to do it, so how do I navigate this? So what's your best recommendation for them on how to navigate, how they can say, okay, and I've asked you this before in other shows, the best way to say if a child's 8 and under, teenage children for trails, for bikes.
Right.
I think that's always a question for people. Where if somebody's an older individual and they have they wanted to take the trails, but they want less slopes or inclines, anything like that.
Yeah, so here at the park we've got a little bit of something for anybody who wants to get out there. The McDade Trail, which runs up and down the Pennsylvania side of the park. It's 31.2 miles long. It's a hard-packed gravel surface. There are some sections that have some rolling hills, but the majority of the trail is a nice hard-packed flat gravel surface. From Smithfield Beach, we've got a section here for about 2 miles that's got a special surface on it, and it's actually great if you're in a wheelchair or you have a stroller. Their surface here is a little bit better for that kind of user, so that's really good to know. We can get people out in the Pocono Pony. Shuttle buses are 100% accessible, so it's a great way to be able to move around through the park and get to places that might be a little bit more challenging to get to otherwise.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so website-wise, to jump on?
Yeah, so to get information about the Pocono Pony, you can visit their website, www.gomcta/trip, for information about all of the shuttles. So remember, it's the Transit and Park Program.
All these different websites,
Trip.
right? We have to get them. Okay.
Yep, and then you can also visit the park's website at www.nps.gov/DEWA for Delaware Water Gap, and there you can find information about all of the different trails, the difficult trails, the easy trails, and how you can get to those places.
Navigate a little bit.
Yeah.
Kathleen, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for highlighting this great program for us.
It's a great program, and the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area is just a gem in our area, in our region, and so I really appreciate you always taking the time.
Well, give me a call. We'll plan a trip for your
I know,
kids.
and I keep saying I have to get out here myself too, and I'm going to this summer. So
okay, you heard that.
I'm going to this summer, so I hope you take advantage of it in the area. So if you have any questions regarding this show or any other state-related matter, please feel free to contact my office. Thank you for watching the Legislative Report.